You are good.
All right, very good. Hello, everybody. This is Zappa Zach, Zappa, aka Eric, from Mythical Family. I'm here today. I know it's been quite a while since we had a last painting session. I have to apologize, but of course, adulting has to get in the way of things, unfortunately. But I'm here again. We're going to try to start again where we left off, and go from there and show you some more techniques. If you remember last time, um, when we did our last model, we just did some base coating. We just kind of put down our baseline so that we can then highlight and shadow on top of it. What I'm going to show you today is quite a bit of what we call layering, which is you kind of putting coats of paint on there to give you the illusion of 3D. Um, and we'll kind of show how that works as we're going on. Um, right now, you probably put this on the table and nobody's gonna really care, but it's not all that interesting still, and I still like to get it take it up a notch or two. It's just kind of basic, bare bones, run of mill, painted miniature. So let's make some interest out of it. Um, I don't know if we could switch to the other camera here to show you what the base coat looks like with the cloak back here. But what we're going to show you is that we're going to take this dull blue coat and we're going to make some interest out of it. We're going to make the Reese's darker, so it's going to show like it's shadows, and we're going to bring up the tips here with some lighter blues to make it just look like it's actually shiny, like the sun's, like the light's coming off of it. So how do I do that? Well, we start off with our medium blue here. That's what we use for our base. And now I'm going down a notch to a dark Persian blue from Vallejo. So it's a lot darker than the other one by quite a bit. So this is going to give you the bit of that illusion of that dark and shadow areas. So we're going to go ahead and start. Already got mixed up and ready to go of our dark Persian. And what we're going to do is going to find those folds. And we're just going to kind of go and paint right into those folds. I'm just using a 2-aught brush. I'm just kind of just painting right into those folds to make them nice and dark. As you can see, we're just getting into those folds. We're just getting it nice and dark in those dark areas, those creases. And it's already starting to look like it's starting to look a little more 3D-ish as more as I paint into it. Now, of course, I kind of did a little bit over on the higher side. So what we're going to do is just go back to our medium blue. And we'll just kind of go over it just a little bit. Kind of bring it up a little bit in the color. I'm just going to add a little sky blue to this medium blue here because it looks a little dark to me, even though it's not totally dry yet. So I'm just going to get a couple drops in there and mix it in just to kind of lighten that blue up a little bit. So we're just kind of highlight those areas. See where it's on the top? I'm just kind of going over it to lighten it up a little bit. Just right on the tips there.
I might try and swap out that device for 14.
Okay.
Just keep painting. See if this.
I can see by just that little bit that I have there, um, it's giving me a lot more interest. It's showing the little dark areas and it's showing the lighter areas as it's starting to make it look a little more 3D-ish. Instead of that plain old blue, it's going to give you that depth.
Down for just a sec.
Okay. A little technical difficulty. Just give us a moment.
Let me add and see if. Oh, yes.
What was going on?
Look at how much clearer it is.
Is it just set to look at
No,
Oh, okay.
put the 14 in there. So let me zoom in a little bit. Can you look at the screen and see?
Yeah, if he's going to be working right about there, is that comfortable there?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. It's a little high, but it's just a really good shot. This is the mini right here.
Okay. Do I need to? Oh no, your hand's perfect. That's like right about middle.
Yeah.
Is that
Okay.
good for you?
Hmm.
Okay. Because I can give you a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm not doing any fine detail in this work, so I'm just going to be shadowing and highlighting as I go.
And the other thing we may try for streams like these is switching the camera so that the phone is on him and the ZB is on the mini.
Oh yeah, we can do that too. But that should.
Looks good.
Should be nice and clear.
Okay. Alrighty. Thank you.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Okay. I think this is of course it is. So
Is that thing going to last or do we need to power it?
lightning. I'll just need to find out longer.
So, just I guess we're going to kind of continue here a little bit. I'm going to go again back down here to go darker in the creases. 'Cause it looks like it lost a little bit. But you can tell already it's starting to look a lot more 3D-ish. A little shiny though. That'll matte out as soon as it dries. One thing about acrylic paints, they dry so fast. That's why we use it as our main go-to. So I'm actually doing a little bit of wet blending here, where you're just when it's still wet, I'm adding a different color to actually lighten it up a little bit and kind of mixing it together so it has that nice transition between the two.
I don't know if we use the 14 Pro to film your painting, but yeah.
Is that enough?
Just a teeny bit more. That's better.
So I did lighten up quite a bit and had the creases nice and dark. Now what I'm going to do is go to a more lighter color, much lighter. Matter of fact, this is a sky blue by Vallejo. And on the very tops, we're just going to add a little bit to it. And since it's still a little wet, I'm kind of wet blending it in a little bit from the darker colors. Right at the very tip. I'm just kind of going back and forth from light to dark. By giving that back and forth motion, you can almost see it's starting to get that 3D feel to it. Seeing the light aspects and going into the dark. Wow, that's starting to look really incredible. I hope you guys can see it on this camera. I don't know if you can notice too that I'm using a little bit what we call side blush brushing, so I can get those raised areas without getting the dark parts. I was going to do layering, but it seems like this is wet blending. It seems to be working really well at the moment. And wet blending, one thing that's good about it is it's really fast. You just keep on going back and forth from light to dark, kind of blending it together. The main thing is try to get it there before it gets dry, so it's moving pretty fast. Let's go. See if we can highlight that up a little bit here along that edge. There we go. So I made a little bit of a glaze here, which is really thin but transparent. What I'm doing here is, since there's kind of like some areas that have like definite lines, partitions, I'm kind of knocking it down, putting glaze over it, so it kind of hides those lines in there. So basically you're just trying to trick your eyes to give that 3D look. Oh, wow. I'm just kind of looking, turning it around, looking at all the angles, seeing if there's any spots I missed, any spots need to be cleaned up a little bit. Has a lot more interest to it.
When you do multiple layers like this, does it take longer to dry, or do you have to like?
When you're doing wet blending, you're kind of racing against the drying time. So this tends to dry pretty quickly, and this will turn to a nice matte color, leaving the effects behind. At least it should. Looks kind of shiny right now. Let's kind of let that dry a little bit. Besides Floof, the matriarch of the mythical family, and Azig, the patriarch, we have my wife in the studio as well. Wanted to come by and say hi. Her name's Heidi, and Mrs. Zappa.
Zappa's wifey. I love it.
So I'm quite excited that I get to share my hobby with her too today. Usually she's off quilting somewhere, and I'm painting along or working on it, or playing a game or something.
I think that applies to all three of us, though.
A little more lightening up here. So I don't know if you've seen this technique I'm doing. It's called feathering. Just kind of brushing it in a little bit, kind of just little swipe, light strokes. It's kind of a layering technique. Just knocking it down a little bit here because it got a little too bright. Using that glaze I told you about. It's kind of half and half. The dark Persian and the medium blue. Very nice.
We're not. Maybe slightly. Okay.
All right. Just blowing out a little bit. See if I can speed up the drying in here a little bit. I wanted to see what it looks like when it starts really drying, because then your colors really start to pop.
Are you when the paint is wet? Are you able to use like where the light shines off of it to determine like where your highlights go, or how do you know how to do that? How do you know where they go?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, basically, we know that in the shadows, it's going to be darker. So you're going to focus a little bit more on the darker. And as it goes up, the lighter, lighter it gets, almost to a white on top. So as I'm doing it, that's how I'm basically looking at it. I'm getting make sure that the deep seat is really dark, and it's kind of like giving that transition from dark to light to the top, if that makes any sense. And just kind of going back and forth. And for wet blending, it's a little easier to do that, going back and forth like that. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, for the most part. Do you just know where the stuff goes because of practice, or do you like use your light source?
I do use my light source to see where it's bouncing off of the figure. I do that to see where it's kind of more light than not. And then I apply lighter colors in that area. I do use that, yes. the light, but sometimes just looking at the figure too, you could tell what's supposed to be a more raised area as well. What should be brighter because it's closer to the light, or getting more light.
Do you ever shade stuff specifically to give it like a to make it look like it's turned a certain way, or to change its look? I'm not asking that in common sense English. Like, do you ever use shadows and highlights to create an effect of like, I don't know, like a blade glowing or
Oh, yeah, that's a little advanced technique of using certain colors. It's like using glazes to brighten up your area that you maybe your torch is lit.
okay, yeah, like that kind of stuff. Like,
Hmm.
would you like cast darker shadow on someone's face if they're holding a torch and like their arms in the way? Or, you know what I mean? Like, could you?
Right, you could do that.
Would you use paints to make it look like the light is doing something?
I would use paints. Yeah, I would mix the paints. Like if you're using a red torch, I might mix a little red into my blue, or even just kind of have a glaze of the red,
Mm-hmm.
so it's transparent, where you get the color from underneath, but it has that little bit of red to it
Mm-hmm. Okay.
that just kind of makes it looks like it's glowing
Okay.
onto the fabric.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I didn't think about the clearish one, because then that would really be like a shadow cast by something, because you'd see the color and figure underneath and through the clear. But yet you have that hint of dark or hint of red or hint of whatever.
Right, right.
Specifically for like firelight, yeah. I could see that on like the face of a mage that's holding like a glowing crystal or something like.
Yeah, I haven't quite mastered it, but I've been kind of working with it, and it's very nice if you can get it right.
Do you use other paint types? Like, do you use glow in the dark paints, or do you use like fluorescing paints or anything?
Mm, you can use fluorescent paints, but usually just a bright paint, bright color paint,
We'll just do the trick.
do the trick. Yeah.
Nice.
So I don't necessarily need a fluorescent or a reflective type paint.
I would think with the tiny size of the minis that it would be a concern. Like, the more paint you put on something, the more it's going to hide the tiny creases, and like you want it to be super, not sheer, that's the wrong word. Thin.
God bless you.
Thank you. I don't know what the word is. Like, so that you can layer it, but it doesn't hide the it doesn't hide the detail.
Right, right. Well, that's why you kind of keep your paints nice and thin, so they're not going to cover up any detail. They're actually going to get into those creases and help.
I remember in your earlier video you were talking about the paints and like how the slip, like when you're looking at the brush and stuff like that,
Hmm.
and you're airbrushing and stuff. You were talking about how you lay the paints on to keep it from obscuring all the super tiny details.
Yeah. The best thing is to keep your paints thin, so it doesn't make paint over those details. Yes. I'm just making tinier and tinier strokes to make up to get to the brighter ends of the cloak. Kind of knocking it down a little bit with a wash.
standing out more. It's also making it look not just more 3D, but like like it's making it look more like fabric, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
like actual folds of something.
That's the illusion I want to try to get. That's flowing fabric.
See where the camera opening is on the iPhone?
Yeah.
If you hold the mini, like kind of, in front of that and put your hand behind it, the iPhone should autofocus for you.
Okay. Like that?
Yeah.
Whoop. That's if I don't kick the stand first.
Right there is dead center. That is so clear, and that looks amazing. Can you see it over here? Oh no, you can't. The lights are on.
Yeah.
That looks amazing. It's super clear. Look at his beard. Oh my god, I love it.
Yeah. I'm going to get to that beard next.
Yeah, the cloak is looking amazing.
Yeah, it's looking a lot more like fabric flowing.
Yes.
Highlights catching the sunlight, while the deep creases are keeping the shadows.
Yep, exactly. And hood and ever like the edge of the hood is like catching more light,
Mm-hmm.
and then that underside is dark. Like just like the hood sits back. This.
So what I'm doing now is just mixing some orange brown, because I kind of want to keep his overall beard looking really orange-like, but this is definitely going to be darker than that little mix of orange red. So it's going to give that little bit of shadows and a little more detail to that beard. I'm just making it a little bit thinner so I can get down into those creases. And what we're going to do is just going to slop it on the beard. And hopefully it does what I want it to do. Get down in there. Remember my feather part where we had the glaze that goes on top and the glaze that kind of goes down into the Depths, that's what I'm trying to do right now, is get into the depths of the beard. Okay, it didn't do what I wanted to do. That's okay. Let's see what else we can do here. Let's try a little burnt umber. Try a little. Add a little bit of the orange brown to it. Sometimes you're just painting. Sometimes you just got to trial and error it. See if you can. What else works? What doesn't work? You can never really truly screw it up because you can always paint over it. And worst comes to worst, you can always just strip the whole bloody thing and do it all over again. That's a little thick. One thing about sable, your sable brushes are worth their own weight of gold because you can get rid of a lot of stuff. You make a mistake, you can sop it up with a little water. Beautiful capillary reaction.
It just auto blurs the field behind you. You don't even have to put your other hand up.
Really?
Yeah. It looks really good.
So I'm going to do a little bit of, I forgot that it's called, stubbing, where you just kind of dawdle on, see if I can get in some of those creases a little better. There we go, now it's turning out. So they made the beard darker, but you can also see more strands of the beard as well. Now we're going to lighten it up a little bit. Oh, let's see. Let's go with some just clear orange. Looks like it needs to be mixed up just a little bit. Because I want his beard to be more fiery, more vibrant. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just side brush it. Make sure I just got just a little bit of paint on there. So it picks up the strands, but leaves the darkness behind. Looks like I need to thin it a little better. It's okay, a little water. Oh, but it's looking good. It's getting there.
Forgot from your earlier video. Do you use distilled water?
I was going to start switching over, but I've been using just tap water at the moment. Here we go. Just finding those highlights of the hair, leaving the darker ones darker, just where I think the sunlight's going to hit it. Just going to bring it up a little notch. Sorry, the real difficult part is to stay concentration and still talk to you guys. Because sometimes I hold my breath when I'm doing this.
Forget that you're midstream or painting, talking to somebody. That's too funny.
Okay. You can see a lot of volume into that beard now.
Yeah, that looks really good.
Looks a little more lifelike. Let's get a little more highlights in there. One thing about hair, it's very translucent. So you got to paint it translucent. I know that's kind of hard to describe, but it's kind of reflective. So like if you're painting brunette hair, you want to use almost a white into it. Matter of fact, I might just add a little white to my clear orange here and bring it up just a little bit more and get some of those top hairs. Put a little ivory in there. 2, 3, yeah, 4. Yeah, that's about enough. Mix it in. Alright, got too much stuff in there. Let's put some more ivory in. There, it's like a very bright orange, so we're just going to use very little of it. Get some of those highest areas.
That goes on so much lighter than it looks in the tray.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's something you got to kind of work with.
See on camera, you applying it to a strand,
Uh-huh.
and it was like, whoa.
Well, it didn't turn out the way I wanted it, but it's okay. We'll just work with it a little bit here. Take away some of it. I could sit here for hours working on his beard to make it going back and forth. But I think it's about as close as I'm going to get for this video. He has a lot more interest, a lot more depth, looks a little fuller. Get that mustache a little bit here. Okay. And can I just go through it real quick? Okay, let's work on the face a little bit.
How do you even see it that small? You need magnifying the glasses thing, the head gear thing?
Sometimes I do.
Man.
So what we're going to do, so you've got some flesh color here. I think I'll add a little flesh. A little burnt umber into it. What I'm doing is trying to make a little shadow out of the skin. A bit of that. A little bit of this. So we want it just a little bit darker than what we have on the mini itself. Typically dwarves are a little darker anyways, so what we're going to do is going to kind of just outline the face with a little darker, and this looks lighter for some reason. Now I'm trying to remember what I did last time. Did I mix a little burnt umber last time? Yeah, it's okay. We'll figure it out.
Line the other areas, like to get rid of like overage or to get rid of.
Sometimes if I do make a mistake, yes, I'll fix it right there and then. Like I just painted on his mustache. Lovely.
I mean, the thing you're painting on is like a quarter of the grain of a grain of rice.
If you notice how I'm holding my hand too, I'm kind of bracing it. It just helps me stabilize my painting a little better. This 2O is too big now. It's too big. 2O, too big. Let's get a little smaller, shall we? Does a lot more painting, but let's go with a double, a triple lot. Why not? Because Zappa is having some difficulties. Go back and restore his mustache. Made a little mistake, that's okay. Just go back and fix it. Once in a while, you get to a point where you start getting frustrated. And sometimes you just gotta back off a little bit. Just kind of, if you're starting to fight with it more, then maybe it's just time to move on and just come back to it. Of course, I'm always known to be stubborn and don't take my own advice. Well, I made a mess out of that. That's okay. Let's finish up the face. We'll have to go back and do the beard again around the face. Get a little more light. One more drop. And we kind of have the darkness in the creases. Usually I do it's just the opposite. I have the mid coat and then I go and outline it with darker. Not working very well this time, so I'm going to do just the opposite. I put down the dark coat and on top of it I'm going to put a lighter coat. Hopefully that might blend real well too. Well, the face is basically just the same way as you would do the cloak. You're starting with the deeper folds to be darker, mid-tones to the more flattener, and then the brighter color to the raised areas. And the light areas are very, very tiny, just at the tip of the nose. Like that, and the cheeks. There. Boy, your cheeks are small. Little burnt umber in the. Yeah, put on the magnifying glasses because I really want to see what I'm doing here. So I've got to highlight the eye with a little darkness. So in other words, I'm outlining the eye. There you go, my pretty. Whoops, dropped you there. Sorry about that, I dropped you guys. A little bit of touch up. Here, you're starting to pop now. It's turkey. Now you're starting to pop up. It looks really good on the magnifying glass, but I don't know if you can see it or not. All right. I'm gonna grab a little red here. Whoops. If I mix it up correctly. Always mix your paint. I'm gonna paint the inside of the mouth. See where I'm at right now. Right now I'm just kind of highlighting the lips so they can actually be seen. Okay, there we go.
Towards you. Yep. There you go, perfect. Right in the middle. And it's really hard to get the bounding box. Mark the square forehead, and you just say up. You know, this is center, and the edges shouldn't have to move at all. It'll be moving up, but just sitting there painting, the minute is going to fill the whole stripe. You know.
This is probably a good time to talk a little bit about eyes. Oh, no, just leave it right here. So with an eye, you don't want to draw an eye See if this will show. See, this is the eye. That probably is not going to be a very good example. Let's see. Let's get some black. Yeah, kind of figured. Thank you. Alrighty, let's see. Oh yes. This will work nicely. Okay. So let's just draw a simple eye. This would be the same with your figures. Now what a lot of people do with their eye is they just put a dot in the middle. Well, that's fine if your character is really surprised, but it's going to look kind of silly in a way. If you want somebody that looks like they're just frightened out of their gourd, this is what you want. But a typical eye, you don't normally see the pupil. The pupil is partially covered with the eyelids. So what you want to do, instead of drawing a dot in the middle of your eye, essentially you just want to draw a line almost from the top to the bottom. Just kind of like I did here. This is a little bit curved to kind of give you an idea of an eye, but part of it's going to be covered with the eyelids. And that's how a normal eyelid would look, or a normal eye. Just kind of FYI, so you don't have to sit there and have to get real close and do a dot. Maybe just a little stroke of an eye, a little line, would be enough to give you the idea that the patient has can't tell that I have a medical background at all. That your miniature has a pupil. Yeah. Now, for the most part, you really don't need a color unless your eyes are big enough where you can probably have a little bit of color. If that's the case, then you want to put a dot in the middle of this line of whatever color you want. And then you want to take a little white and put a light reflection off of it. Makes it more realistic. Makes it look a little more realistic. So you just put a little dot. Somewhere on the pupil it's white. Fix you, old turkey. So it makes it look like it's wet and reflecting light. Just some things to kind of think about when you're doing your eyes. This one has a very small, they're very, 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 very small eyes. So what I'm probably going to do is probably dab it with a little white or an off-white, because your eyeballs, your sclera in your eyes are not perfectly white. They're going to be a little bit yellowish or a little bit of an off-white color. So let's grab my teeny weeny itsy bitsy double 3-aught here. Let's see if I can actually do these eyes, because it's going to be a huge challenge because of how small they are. So what I'm doing right now is kind of getting my point ready on my brush. Make sure I kind of, as I'm drying it, kind of twisting it and pulling it to a point. Because all you're going to basically do is put just enough paint, and hardly even that, not even a dot on your brush. So you're going to load your brush a little bit to the tip. Okay. Okay. So we're going to just put a little dot here of paint, because we're not going to need a whole heck of a lot. We're going to take our paintbrush. We got it to a point. We're going to put it in there, and we're going to even dab some of that off. I'm going to go in here, hopefully, without screwing too much stuff up here. Get an eyeball. What I tend to do with my eyes too, on the base of my eyes, I will first put like a darker color, depending on what type of outline or eyelids you want. If you just want a kind of normal skin, you kind of want to just be like a little dark shadow. If you want mascara, I use black, and then I fill in the middle of it with the white. I don't know if you can see it, but it looks like he's scared. He has death eyes. Closer to the thing. So you can see there's two little white orbs there. Now what I'm going to do, since I got my black here, I might as well do it that way, is I'm just going to draw a line in the middle of it. Try to anyways. We'll see how well it works. Again, I'm kind of dipping my paint, my brush in my paint, getting most of it off. And right in the middle, just draw a line from top to bottom. In the middle of that eye. All right, Gotta do a little touch up here. Unfortunately, hand kind of slipped there a little bit. Well, it's not as good as I would like, but there you go. At least he has eyeballs. It's not like... It's not the best I've done before. Well, personally, I'm really unhappy with the face, but it's my perfectionist coming through.
Do you ever take like the edge of a Q-tip or like a clean brush and I don't know, halftone or whatever, and like kind of scrub off what you painted, like if you really don't like it?
For something this small, you would basically have to take it off. Because right now there's so much paint on there, it's kind of obscuring some of the details too. So, and then if you start rubbing it, you're going to start taking paint around it too. So I'm like happy with the beard for the most part, but now the face isn't that good. My personal opinion. Looks like a face. Looks like a real messed up face. Oh well, we're not all perfect, I'll tell you that. Good.
You need to hold your breath. Wait for a little bit.
I
Just didn't expect that.
was kind of worried because I was thinking maybe I'm holding these guys up. right, guys. How late are we into this already? Hour and a half. I think that's good for right now. If I sit here and paint all night long for 4 hours, I'm gonna lose a lot of you. So, so far what we did was we painted the cape, so it looks a little more 3D-ish, a little more like fabric. We did the face, which we bombed at, and the beard, which looks nice and full and really vibrant. Actually, I might just play with that a little bit more, but I think we're pretty much done for the evening. Until next time, and we'll see if we can finish some more as we're continuing our little painting segment here. So, thank you for joining me tonight from Mythical Family. Again, I'm Zappa Zach. Kind of, we're on all of our social medias: Facebook, Tinder, Twitch, and what else are we on? Facebook, Discord, Instagram. Yeah, so we're going to have quite a few different other things besides just this. Lots of games, Ragecon in just a couple weeks. That's going to be exciting. I can't wait to go. So yeah, so stay tuned for more things up in the head. And hopefully I get to do this a little more often and we'll get this finisher finished, which I really want to get finished. So I can move on to other great things. So, all right then. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a very good night.